Hey everyone, and welcome to this edition of Stream On. I'm Jim Williams, your host. And today, we're just 1 week away from the opening ceremonies of the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, obviously a year beyond because of COVID. And we have a very interesting and very special guest today. She's from Wallet Hub. She's an analyst by the name of Jill Gonzalez. Jill was part of the team that put together an incredible study of the costs of this year's Olympic Games, and it's going to be the most streamed Olympic Games in history. There'll be over 7,000 hours of content that people will be able to see around the world. NBC Universal paid $1.45 billion for the rights to the Games. So far, they've recouped a bit of it. They've sold $1.25 billion in domestic sales for the game, so in advertising. So that part, they're almost there. So it's going to be strange because it's going to be an Olympics without a single fan in the stands. So quite an interesting Olympics and quite a fascinating analysis that was done by Wallet Hub. Jill, welcome. Let's talk about the 2020 Games and some of the most unique things that make it both interesting from a Wallet Hub standpoint and your analysis of the costs of the Games and all kinds of wonderful stats, as well as the fact that there won't be anybody in the stands. Very unique Olympics.
Wallet Hub, we really looked at the economics behind the Olympics, kind of first and foremost. And this is a very special Olympics this year because so much is being done and so much money is being spent on coronavirus countermeasures. Just for the Olympics this year, they're spending $900 million on those countermeasures alone. That's just part of over $26 billion that's costing of hosting these Olympics.
And the other aspect of it, obviously, is the fact that there will be no spectators at this Olympics.
Exactly. And that also leads to a loss. There's about a $15 billion economic loss for Japan from barring overseas spectators and really limiting the number of domestic fans. At first it was 50%. Now that's even higher with 0 spectators allowed.
One of the things that that people don't know, or they are surprised when I tell them, is that actually most Olympic Games do not make money for the country that hosts them.
Exactly. They bring in, some money. There usually is some type of economic boost, but it doesn't mean they necessarily profit because it is such an expensive endeavor.
Right. And, a lot of people, one of the few Olympics that actually made money was the 1984 Olympics. And there were actually twofold reason for that. The first one was, of course, because the city of Los Angeles, who hosted the Games, only had to build one venue, and that was a velodrome. They already had all the stadiums in place, and so they didn't have to do that. And number two, people forget in 1980, we boycotted the Russian Games. So as kind of a get back, the Eastern Bloc countries didn't come. So under the circumstances, that one turned out to be, I'm not going to say it was a profitable one, but it was certainly not one that lost a lot of money. So I thought that was that was unique as well. And now we're unique in the fact that we've got no fans coming to the Games, which obviously means it's going to be weird for those who are participating in the Games, from a competition standpoint, to look at stands and not see anybody or not hearing cheering.
Exactly. And I'm sure, the country too is really feeling that because they did build infrastructure. Japan spent about $1.5 billion just on the 100,000 seat stadium
Right.
that's going to be hosting the opening and closing ceremonies at the Olympics. So that's a lot of seats not being filled.
For sure. And you were talking about, how much in the way that this is actually a very green Olympics.
Very green. Yeah, Japan was very careful in how they were building infrastructure and how they were trying to offset a lot of different types of environmental procedures. Uh, 47,000 trees were planted within that stadium. So that was part of the cost. And again, part of those offsetting procedures. And even with the medals, you think
Mhm.
Japan, you think a leader in technology.
Right.
So they made their gold, silver, bronze medals, 5,000. They were all made out of recycled electronics.
Mhm.
And what's even cooler about that is that 80,000 tons of small electronic devices were actually donated by Japanese citizens for those medals
Which is pretty cool. I mean, the fact that the metals are made out of recycled cell phones and,
from the citizens. Yeah.
right, from the people of this, people of Japan. The other thing that popped up at me, which I thought was fascinating, was the ability the, um, for the Olympic Committee to, use their corporate partners involved in this. And, obviously everybody wants to be a corporate partner, but what they did years ago, part of their concept of using single, you know, like for instance, Coca-Cola is the official soft drink, sponsor for the Olympic Games, and so they limited their corporate partnerships, which allowed them to maximize the amount of money that the corporate sponsor made or paid to the Olympic Committee, which I thought, was at the time kind of a revolutionary thing. So they really have 14 worldwide Olympic corporate sponsors.
Exactly. And they really are maximizing how much those people are paying. So as you said, Coca-Cola is one of the brands,
Mhm.
Visa, P&G,
Right.
Samsung, Toyota,
Mhm.
some certainly with more Japanese ties. And NBC, of course, a huge media partner as
Right.
well.
Mhm. Well, they paid 1.45 billion, but that was part of a multi-year deal that they have with the IOC. So the breakdown of 1.45 for just these games alone gives you an idea of how much is going into the coffers of the IOC for this particular event.
And there'll be lots of programming,
Oh yeah.
over 7,000 hours of
Oh, yeah.
Olympic programming.
Mhm.
And that's great because there's even more sports this year. There's 4 sports that are
Mhm.
actually debuting this year. That's karate, sport climbing,
Mhm.
surfing, and skateboarding.
Pretty amazing. And the thing too is that because of the streaming services, right? That allows people to really watch the Olympics because we're in a 13-hour time difference. It allows people to watch the Olympics basically whenever you want to. So this is kind of an on-demand Olympics.
Whenever you want and wherever you want
Right. On
because
whatever
of the
device you want, right.
exactly. And even, this might not come to mind because I think, in America we kind of take streaming for
Mhm.
granted,
Right.
but the international transmission capability is over 4 times what it was in Rio. So this
Right.
makes it the most global Olympic Games.
Mhm. And, it's funny, Jill, when, I did my first Olympic Games in 1980. I worked as a researcher on the 80 games, and then I got my first director, opportunity in the 84 games. And what people don't realize is, from a television standpoint, is that there are so many, all of the events are being fed back to the International Broadcast Center. And, what you'll see on television specifically on NBC, the linear network, is a fraction of what actually is going on. And as you said, because of streaming, if you are a fan of fencing, you'll be able to see it. If you're a fan you know, of um, of boating, which is a big event at the Olympics, or perhaps even the equestrian events. Some of the events that are more niche than, say, gymnastics or track and field, or the things that you normally associate with the Olympics, you're going to be able to see it, and you wouldn't have seen it, I can assure you, as you say, 4 years ago, even. Even from that standpoint. So we've come a great deal in that regard as well.
Exactly. And we mentioned the four sports that are making debuts. There's also
Mhm.
two making a comeback: baseball for men, softball for women. And all of those are just some of the 339 sporting events that are going to be taking place. So certainly some are more niche than others.
For sure. It's funny, in the winter games, you get a lot of people um, who suddenly caught the curling bug, and they watched it because of the fascination of people actually just sweeping away ice as the stone is moved down the skateway as he's going toward hopefully knocking something out of the way, so that so you get more points. So there's always these niche sports that suddenly catch on to the fancy of the fans, because we have so many different fans, as you know, Jill, that come to watch the Olympics that are casual sports fans. They're not your normal baseball, basketball type sports fans. These are fans that are casual, and the Olympics attracts a great deal more women than does the traditional sports.
Yeah, and I think the other thing here, the other part of it is things like commercials, right? Like
Hmm.
people that watch
Sure.
the Super Bowl for the commercials. The commercials during the Olympics, at least, are known to make me cry. There's a lot of
A lot
parental
of
stories and
nationalism,
things
yeah,
like that.
involved. Right. Well, and the medal ceremonies are usually quite the entertaining aspect too, because very few people can forget Dorothy Hamill when she stood on the medal stand and grasped her gold medal, and kind of like looking at it as almost in disbelief that here I am standing on this Olympic um, platform, and guess what, I won. Um, so we remember Michael Phelps. I mean, there's all of the different situations where there are moments from Olympic Games that you can recall without even remembering necessarily what year it was. But there are Olympic moments that people tend to recall without having any problem doing it. And as I said before, when we packaged the Olympics for prime time, it was always we want to put gymnastics in top front, because that's a massive ratings getter, and the track and field would be the following week as well. So you had your marquee events, but it's those little other events that sneak in there, and so many people watch these games, and the other part is the camaraderie, right? Of the Olympic sports, where people from all around the world get to come and compete. Even if they don't win medals, they're happy to be there, and they're honored to be there. And I think that's one of the things that we really miss, is the actual enjoyment of athletes getting together from different parts of the world and competing and having fun doing it.
Exactly. It's a global unifier,
Right.
and it's certainly a national unifier as well, which after a number of reasons, a number of years, I think is going to be really good for the country. There's kind of this uh, international race for who's getting the most medals. It's just more tongue in cheek. Of course, last time the U.S. won, the U.S. has the most medals won by
Right.
any team to date, the most of any country. So I think we'll see a lot of people tuning in for that. Michael Phelps, as you mentioned, has the most of any athlete with
Right.
28.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. I was at the I forget, might have been the games in Barcelona, and a friend of mine who was a British reporter said he had to rush over to the badminton. And I said to him, "Look, if if you don't want to talk, you don't have to talk. But telling me rushing to badminton, just a joke." And he's like, "No, no, no." He goes, "We have a chance to medal in badminton." And so it does. I mean, in countries where they're, in the United States, sometimes, they get upset if an athlete we only got a bronze medal. Well, you know what? There are a lot of people participating in these events, and they just love the fact that they're participating, and their country loves that they're participating. And you can't, not everybody can win a medal. And so it's the beauty of sports, and that's what's so much fun to watch in the Olympics.
Exactly. So I think you're right. In America, there's so much pressure on the athletes to not only medal but to get the gold. And in many other countries, that's not the case at all. So
Right.
we'll see.
We will
see
Yeah,
people medal, obviously.
Right. Well, Jill, you've come to the part of the show where we call shameless plugs. So please, if there's anything that you want people to know about Wallet Hub, which is a fantastic group, and they do so much wonderful research, and they tell you about all kinds of fun stuff. So please feel free to tell us shamelessly about what's going on with Wallet Hub.
Yeah, absolutely. We are number crunchers here, so we try to look at the economics behind a lot of these major events. We do it from everything from the NBA Finals to the Kentucky Derby to, of course, the Olympics, which is my favorite because I, like you, geek out on the Olympics and all things numbers, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing them. And then, anything else, just really breaking down the numbers for all aspects of consumer life. If you have any questions, head to wallethub.com.
Well, wallethub.com, all of the information on the Olympics, which Jill gave us in great detail, and it's fascinating. And they even got cool pictures, folks, cool little pictures as well. All of that will be in the show box below, so you'll be able to take a look at it and to have some fun as you watch the Olympics, just poring over the numbers. So it's really quite interesting as well. So, Jill, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll be back with more right after this is from BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
At BMW, we know leaving the road wasn't easy, but anticipating our return taught us to appreciate every drive. The exhilaration of the ultimate adventure. Moments spent with your favorite co-pilots. And the freedom to explore just because. Our time to rejoin the road is finally here.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Stream On. If you're not yet one of the over 75,000 people worldwide who've taken the time to subscribe to our podcast, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, we make it simple. You can find us very easily, free at the Apple Podcast Store. Same thing over at the Google Play Store. You can find us at Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, as well as iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube, just to name a few. Now, if for some reason you can't find us, but you have one of those wonderful assistant devices, like Alexa, Siri, or Google, all you have to do is ask them to please play Stream On with Jim Williams, and guess what? They'll do it for you, okay? Now, if after all that you still can't find us, again, do not worry. Pull out the old Google machine, type in Stream On with Jim Williams, hit the favorite button, the subscribe button, and each week you're going to get a brand new edition of the podcast sent directly to your phone, your tablet, and or both, okay? So please go out there and do that today. And also, in our show box below is all of our social media handles. And we pride ourselves on the fact that we have a worldwide audience that constantly is keeping us up to date on what they're watching and what we should be highlighting. So we enjoy the interactivity of it. We enjoy answering your questions, and we enjoy your suggestions, many of which we use on the podcast. And many times, the shows that you ask us to highlight are the shows that we indeed have either the star of the show or maybe the producer or showrunner, someone from the show on, so that we can chat about that program and chat about why it's become so popular, okay? So we greatly appreciate your interactivity with us. So first of all, today, join. Second of all, keep coming back and keep telling us what you're watching, okay? Because we greatly appreciate the opportunity to interact with so many of you out there from all over the world. We greatly appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. All right, so what's in the news? Well, what an incredible week for the streaming services when the 2021 Emmy nominations came out. We have Netflix's The Crown and Disney Plus's Mandalorian scoring the most nominations for a television series, with each of them coming in with 24 nominations. Now, they were closely trailed by Disney Plus's WandaVision, who had 23, Hulu's Handmaid's Tale, which had 21. Saturday Night Live from NBC also scored 21. After those leaders, Apple TV Plus's Ted Lasso had 20. HBO's Love Country had 18. Netflix's Queen's Gambit had 18, and HBO rounded out the top 5 with, Maria of Easttown with 16. Now, network-wise, it was a big battle between HBO Max and Netflix, with HBO Max edging out Netflix 130 to 129. Disney Plus had a great year, 71 nominations, and NBC clocked in with 46. So huge news for the streaming world, showing that they have become a dominant player in television at this point in time, with so many nominations for so many fantastic programs, okay? And just in case you want to know when it comes, the Emmys will air on September 19th on CBS and on Paramount Plus from this, from the theater in Los Angeles. Cedric the Entertainer will be the host. And, of course, that's the Kodak Theater in Los Angeles. And, again, Cedric the Entertainer will be the host. All right. On the news side, today we were hit with some interesting news, and that is that Casey Hunt, friend of the podcast, and star at NBC and MSNBC, she does Way Too Early and Morning Joe, plus she covers the Capitol. She will be leaving NBC, and today she made that announcement. She did not say where she's going, but we know that she will be headed to CNN, where she will take a lead role in CNN's brand new CNN Max, which will be debuting sometime this fall. And ironically, MSNBC also announced that they're going to be putting together some news content, which they're going to showcase on Peacock coming up again this fall. So a lot of stuff going in the news business. In the streaming side, we also, as you guys know, because we've had them on many times, CBSN is a big player on the streaming platforms as well. So it looks like not just the entertainment aspect of streaming is going to be boistered, but so, of course, is the news division. And, of course, we already know that sports has a very big place in the streaming world. And actually, we're going to get into that in more detail. We did today, and we're going to get into even more detail next week, which will be the opening day of the Olympics, okay? So, for everybody here at Stream On, I'm Jim Williams, thanking you for joining us this week. Until next week, when we take a look at the first weekend of the Olympic Games, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time right here on Stream On.